Hello again, my fellow Jeti users, and in this video we're going to look at the automatic resetting of the origin in a Jeti MGPS telemetry sensor. And for this I have to thank Jim Brown, who sent me an email detailing how he got it to do it automatically, and that triggered me to think, yes, I've got to get round to doing this, because there is an aspect of the Jeti MGPS design that really bugs me. And that is, it doesn't reset its origin every time you switch it on. It simply remembers the last place that you set its origin, which could have been at an airfield 50 miles away, 85 miles away. I have to travel 85 miles to get to some of my airfields. To the south, another one is 10 miles to my north. So, near enough 100 miles between them. Why should you want to reset the origin? The origin tells the GPS where to measure various things from. So, for instance, its height above ground, the distance from the origin to where the model is, which I sometimes like to ping a switch and hear during flight, how far away is it. It's things like its azimuth angle, its bearing from you, that kind of stuff. Resetting the origin doesn't have any effect on the latitude, longitude. So, if you don't do it, it's fine. Afterwards, you can look at your tracks in the maps in Jeti Studio. That all works fine. But any measurement from the origin, and I do like to use some of them, gets completely screwy, because if I travel to the airfield that's, 85 miles away from the other airfield I've been at, where I set the origin, and I forget to set the origin, then I ping the switch in flight to hear how far away the model is from me, and it tells me it's about 85 miles away, which is a fat lot of use. So it'd be nice to reset this automatically. And there's one more thing that bugs me about the design of the MGPS. Please, Jeti, for goodness sakes, design a new one properly and get it out quick. Is that to reset it requires using a channel. Now, not only my jets, but some of my gliders, I'm using all 15 sockets in the Central Box 200. I just don't have a channel I can use to reset it. Never mind, you can go in, manually do it through Jeti Box, and that phrase Jeti Box just sends a shiver down my spine. It's horrid. It's out of the last century. Well, I know it's from the last decade, but it feels like something out of the last century. It's just not nice. So Jim Brown's email triggered me to get this sorted out, because the biggest problem is just forgetting to even do it, even if you have a switch assigned for it. So anyway, enough of the preamble. Let's have a look at what we can do. The simplest one, we'll take the condition that you haven't got a spare channel to use to reset the origin. So you've got to do it by Jeti Box. You want a reminder to do it. You only need to do it the first time you arrive at the airfield, and it will remember that origin forevermore until you reset it somewhere else. So if you keep going back to the same airfield for the next 6 months, you only need to set it up the first time at that airfield, and it will keep using it, but it will then remind you when you get to another airfield. How do you do that? Well, we can go in and create an alarm. So go into timer sensors, alarms, add an alarm, choose the sensor, the MGPS distance, enable it, set the condition, X is greater than, and then choose some decent big distance that is beyond the distance you're going to fly the model out to. Say a couple of thousand meters. Frankly, if you get to 1,000 meters, you'd be doing well with most models. But you never know. Maybe you've got one of these fantastic 10-meter wingspan gliders from Florian Schambeck, and you fly it out to big distances. I don't know. At some nice distance, 2,000 meters is going to be outside what you're going to fly your model, but any other airfield you travel to is going to be beyond the couple of thousand meters. So set it in there. And choose a file to play. I went to Tero Salmonen's website, rc-thoughts.com, used the text-to-speech there to create this.
Reset GPS in Jeti box.
Okie doke. I think that was a bit loud. It said reset GPS in Jeti box to remind me to do it. And switch repeat off, so it only tells you the once. And at the moment, we can see that we are 932 meters away from where I last set the origin, because I've been out for a drive on a rainy day with the GPS running, checking that all the programming works. So if I turn the alarm condition down below 932, it should trigger the alarm. Get ready.
Reset GPS in Jeti box.
There we go. So that will work. You just go into the Jeti box and reset it. How would you do that? Just turn that up to a high value so it doesn't interrupt us anymore. Well, you can either go into Applications, into Jeti box, and work your way through. Or another thing you can do to save coming there is actually display it. So if we add system, is it? There we go, Jeti box. It's in a new page. Can you just see the line there? Yeah. So now we can go to page 2 by moving along, and it's got Jeti box there for us. And at the moment, the arrow button would just take us back to page 1, page 2. But if we press escape, see now all the arrows have become active, and these are now emulating the arrows within Jeti box. So these will now navigate us through Jeti box. If I press escape again, it goes back to page left, page right. So I'll press escape again. We're now in Jeti box, which means I can move to the right to get RX. I can move to the right again, come to MX. That's the sensors like MGPS, MBAR, MUIs, etc. Now I want to move downwards, and it's telling me it's got an MGPS. Distance is 932. My height's -1. Velocity is 0 knots. Where do we go from here? I'll try a down. Here we go. MGPS menu, actual value. I could go down, or I can go to the right. I'm not going to go into the actual, so I'll go to the right. I get them in max. I'll go to the right again. Settings. Here we are. Come down here. Setting. This is why I hate Jeti box. Set origin. What it's telling you there with the little left and right arrows is press and hold down left and right buttons together. Pardon me. I need more coffee. And you hold it down, it'll go beep, 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 and it'll say origin set, or something like that. I'm not going to do it because I need it to show you the other bit of the programming. And there you go. Lovely done. Right, and that would be an alarm set for you, and you've taken action on it now. You've reset the origin. That alarm is not going to go off again unless the GPS finds itself more than the distance you've set in the alarm away from this point. So that's why I say set it to something like 2,000 meters. Your model's not going to reach there with normal flight, but you know, once you drive to a different airfield, it'll trigger it to go off. Or of course, if you come home and switch the system on, it'll say, whoa, you're more than 2,000 meters from your model airfield. Set off the alarm. But it'll only play it once. You don't have to reset it. It's not going to worry if you don't reset it. It'll just do it that time. Although the next time you switch on the model in your workshop again, it will find that and trigger it. No problem. Okay, whilst we are in Jeti box, let's go and look at a setting that you would need to have enabled in order to use the channel with a switch, or I'm about to show you the automatic way of resetting the origin. You keep coming down this menu. There. Set origin by impulse input. That means operating a switch through a channel which your GPS and its red plug are plugged into. If it's set origin by menu only, then the impulse is not going to work. So the automatic version or manually operating a switch through a channel won't work because it's saying you can set the origin by menu only. So do come in here and make sure it's set by impulse input if you're wanting to do it the automatic version. Okay, so we can come out of that. Back to our thing here. So it reckons we're 932 meters away. Now, Jeti says do not use the reset of the origin with less than 5 satellites showing. So you want 5 or more satellites to be showing. And I'm saying we don't want to try and do any resetting if you're still at the airfield. So here's the obvious use for an AND logic switch. So what we need is a couple of telemetry controls to pick up the value of the satellites, the value of the distance, and then we'll pass it through a telemetry control, a logic switch, and use that to run the system. Right, let's have a look. Model. Function assignment. I've created a function called GPS reset, and as it happens, I've assigned control logic switch 1 to it. It be whichever logic switch you're using that we'll come to create in a few minutes. Okay, and of course there must be a servo channel assigned to it. Channel 5. There we go. Here's the receiver. Channel 5. The red plug from the MGPS is plugged into channel 5. The black plug goes into the EXT or expander socket because that's actually providing the telemetry. Okay. All right. Advanced properties, telemetry controls. This is where we pick up those telemetry values. So you add, I've called one sat enabled. It's the satellite count. Your sensor, you come in here, hit the drop-down menu, and you can pick up the various things that are coming through your telemetry. We want the MGPS satellite count. Type of control, it will default to switch, leave it as that. Condition, X is greater than 4. In other words, 5 or above, it will switch on. Otherwise, it's switched off. And just to make sure it's working the way I want, I've set the default down to -100. So if it's not finding anything or it's wondering what to do, it will go to the off position. And it will only switch on when it finds satellites more than 4. In other words, 5 or above. Say OK. It's found quite a few satellites at the moment, so that's switched on. The distance switch, same as before. You pick from the drop-down menu the MGPS distance. It's a switch. And I've said here X is greater than 1,200 meters. Again, I'd say probably push it out to 2,000 meters. But, 1,000 meters, frankly, most people would really be struggling to fly their model at that distance. I mean, seriously struggling. Most models, I think you'd have lost sight or lost control of it. Visually lost control of it anyway by that distance. But, pick some nice distance that there is no way your model is going to get to because you don't want it to reset this system. And again, default -100% just to force it to the off position unless distance goes above 1,200. Okay. So what we can do now then is just bring them together in a logic switch. So your control will be MX1 to get it. Yeah, you just press plus, come down to telemetry controls. There it is. Put it in, say OK. Same for control 2 will be your other telemetry control, in this case MX2. The condition is AND. Because we're within the distance limit set by control 2, it hasn't switched on, even though control 1, which is the satellite count, is on. The AND conditions failed, so it's switched off at the moment. Okay to that. And as you saw a few moments ago, we go ahead and we assign L1 as the control to the GPS reset function. Now what will happen if you move to another airfield that's more than the distance you've set away from the last time you set the origin is that the value here, control 2, will go on. Once it's picked up satellites and it's found stuff, if it gets to 5 and above satellites, control 1 goes on. Oh, it's gone off. The reason being, here in my workshop, it's insulated with that silvered bubble wrap, so there's very poor radio, telephone, GPS reception in here. It's gone back on again, you can see. You've exceeded the distance set there, so that'll go on. The condition will go on, and therefore the GPS reset function and the channel will go from -100 to +100. The GPS sees that as an impulse input and says, haha, reset the origin. So it resets the origin to 0, which promptly means that, of course, MX2 will go off because it's now below the value set. The logic switch goes off, and therefore the function will go back from +100 to -100, which I think the MGPS will say, aha, another impulse, reset the origin. But since this is all going to happen within about half a second, I don't think it's going to be a problem for you, because I don't think the model will have moved very far in that half a second, which is going to be moments after you switched on anyway. And so there we go. It will reset it. I will now prove it. So we'll have a look here at the front screen. We're 937 meters away from where I last reset it. I'll just move the receiver. Yep, we've got 7, so we're above that. So that condition's satisfied. We're within the limits specified, flying our model around Imagine away from where we set it. Not a problem. It's not going to reset. So we'll just trick it into resetting. Telemetry controls, distance. I'll come down here. The condition's greater than 1200. What I'm going to do is turn it down below the 900 that it currently is at, and whiz it down to about there. Say OK. It should be switching on. I'll take it lower in case it's struggling because of the poor reception in here. And it did switch on. As you can see, the distance now is down at 10 meters. It should be 0, but it's a poor thing. You can see the satellites, but I'm getting poor reception in here. The reason that it looked like it hadn't switched on, of course, was because the moment it switched on, the AND gate went to the output on, which impulsed the GPS, which reset it down to 0, and therefore the whole thing promptly went off again, and it did it so fast that we didn't see it. Okay, that's why it fooled me for a moment, thinking, why is the output not switching on? Because it went on-off, and now it's off. So you can see it automatically reset itself. So there you go. There's how to overcome one of what I find is a bugbear of the MGPS unit. Have fun with that, folks.